Welcome all to the Otago and Southland Regional Transport Committee meeting for the 23rd of February 2026. It's great to have you all here. We've got a few online. Thank you and welcome to Matthew who's joined us who wasn't earlier for the workshop, and this we've apologies this afternoon, Councillor Christine Menzies, Councillor Ria Bond, Patterson Nago, and Councillor Barry Stewart. Thank you, everyone else. Moved to accept those apologies, moved Bruce, seconded James. Thank you. Mr. Van James. We've welcomed to the end of the table Rebecca Shepherd and Andrew Sutton from the Mosgiel Tari Community Board, who've asked to come to the public forum. I think we'll give you 5 minutes or thereabouts, and coming up the end there, if that's okay. Push the right-hand side for your mic to work, if that's okay. Thank you very much for coming along today.
Well, thank you very much for having us. As Kate says, I'm Rebecca Shepherd, the chair of the Mosgiel Tari Community Board, and Andrew Sutton is the deputy chair. Thank you. I'm going to read it if that's all right, because I'm a bit nervous.
But turn your mic on, just to push the right hand. Thank you.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I realise that you will have a busy schedule, so the chance to give you our perspective of the situation in Mosgiel and the Greater Tari is very much appreciated. The Mosgiel Tari Community Board serves about 20,000 people across rural and urban areas, making up, I calculated, I think roughly 15% of the DCC population living in and around Mosgiel. We understand this is a regional transport committee meeting focused on Otago and Southland. However, as a community board, we are committed to keeping Mosgiel's traffic issues a priority. Mosgiel's population has grown to around 15,000, more than doubling in the last 10 to 15 years, yet roading infrastructure has seen no significant upgrades. With new regional land transport plans in development and a transport study underway, we hope for effective solutions to current traffic issues, especially the reliance on Gordon Road and State Highway 87. Mosgiel bears much of Dunedin's growth, including large residential subdivisions, retirement villages and freight hubs, all of which will increase traffic and rail movements. While this development definitely benefits the region, it must be matched with proper infrastructure. Changes to the RMA may also reduce local council oversight of infrastructure planning, leaving us more at risk of being left behind. We are here today to try and make sure that the livability of the Tari area and Mosgiel are not adversely affected by the development, and we can instead embrace these changes with the appropriate infrastructure to support it all. I've had a quick read of the 2021-2031 Regional Land Transport Plan and note that the Objectives Framework section on page 44 neatly outlines our issues with the traffic flow in Mosgiel. I quote, "Decisions relating to residential, commercial and industrial land use change that do not adequately consider transport can negatively impact how networks operate, and dealing with the impact can be costly. In some parts of Otago and Southland, unplanned urban growth and development have resulted in high single occupancy vehicle use, causing network capacity issues. In other places, freight movements through urban areas create severance." We realise that this probably refers predominantly to parts of central Otago with huge development going on. However, this is very real down here as well. And it most certainly is an issue for Mosgiel, where the growth in population and economic development over the last 10 to 15 years will likely be stretched to breaking point with the planned residential and commercial developments in the pipeline. The current RLTP goes on further to outline the issues for Mosgiel and the Tari in the next paragraph, where it states that planning needs to be coordinated and integrated to avoid safety, efficiency and severance implications for the wider community. Difficult decisions may need to be made to restrict access to developments or ensure the true cost of mitigation is met by the developer through additional contributions to upgrade associated infrastructure for all modes. Economic stimulus being the focus for the current government has been great for the Tari, with the various developments and projects being consented. Government assistance with the funding for some projects and assistance with consenting and fast-tracked approval of consents in some cases. All is excellent for Mosgiel and the Greater Tari, but it comes with a cost in terms of increased traffic and associated safety concerns. Andrew and I have attended today in an effort to be involved with decisions that could potentially shape the wraparound infrastructure to make it all work. I'm now going to hand over to Andrew, who will speak to the potential for a bus service between Outram and Mosgiel.
Thanks, Rebecca. We would also use our time today here to lend our support to the initiatives that might be being considered around a potential bus service between Outram and Mosgiel. There's a large retired population in Outram and also a big influx of families into new housing developments out there, and a regular bus service connecting Outram and Mosgiel, and the bus service continuing on to Dunedin would greatly enhance the lives of those people who may not yet be driving or who may have lost the flexibility to drive on the open road to get to shops and other amenities in Mosgiel. I understand that local Outram residents have been in contact with the ORC transport and bus planners, so hopefully there are some plans to initiate a service linking through to Outram. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Are you happy to take some questions?
Absolutely, yes.
And I'm sure that later in the day we're getting a presentation from the NZTA, which will be later. And I'm sure that James may or may not make some comment then, but we'll make sure if he does that you'll hear about it. Stu, was that a finger up? No. Any other? Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks Andrew and Rebecca for the presentation. Just a couple of questions. Firstly, Rebecca, I think you said towards the end you want to be involved in decision making. Just a question, in the best case scenario, how does that look to you?
This kind of situation, I guess. I know that we can't be in a committee that we're not invited to be in, but if we can be a sounding block as a community board for the plans that are ahead, as long as we're kept in the loop and included, like the Mosgiel transport study, we've been told we might get an early preview of that before it's made public for consultation. So that sort of situation is what we're anticipating, not being involved with your committee directly.
And I guess further to that, so two questions, sort of one question. Have you been in front of this committee before? And do you intend coming to the DCC annual plan process just to pass on your concerns there?
Oh, we will come to everything that comes up if we can. Yeah.
Please don't go everything.
If we can have input and make sure that we're heard, we'll come along to the important meetings.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it's sort of not a question, but I'll take a little bit of leverage off the chair. And feel free as well to reach out to me as a new member of this
Thank
committee.
you. Yeah, thank you.
No other questions? Have you any preference for what the solution may be, or you're just waiting for the study to be informed by that?
I guess as far as heavy traffic, we would like to see a bypass, and I think that's a given. I do think that as a community board, we realise that it's not just heavy traffic that's the issue for the main street of Mosgiel. It's too many cars and too many people living there for what it was originally built for. So if we can look at perhaps 2 entry points into Mosgiel, and certainly with that new development going on at the old Southland, then if we can have maybe a Rickon Road entry or something like that that's a bit more developed to turn into, then that would be fantastic. Even if that's a stopgap before we get a bypass.
Does that include the NZTA issues with the train when it gets backed up? Will that answer all of those problems?
The
train.
The train stopping the traffic and the long lead into
if the trains can be addressed, obviously we've got the Melbourne hub going in. If that can be addressed, that we have better, because we have longer trains, I imagine, and more often. So if we can address those issues, then does that answer what you mean, or have I missed the point? You sort of talk more about the main road and the entry. I was just checking that it was to address that lead in from the state highway as well. Yeah, the whole bottleneck that we've got there is what we're,
Okay, no other questions. Thank you very, very much for this first presentation on this triennium. I'm sure that we'll keep it very well done, and keep it to the forefront of our minds when we develop the plan.
Thank you. Are we allowed to stay on, aren't we?
You are more than welcome.
Thank you.
The next item is confirmation of the agenda. We've been pre-circulated. Anyone need to any alterations? Otherwise, I'll move the confirmation from the chair. Seconded, Phil. Any discussion, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Confirmation of the minutes, which I think we've already signed at the last training, which was process, we're just noting them, are we? Just noting the minutes, which have been signed as correct because, yes,
Yeah, sorry, Madam Chair, just to prove I read them, the spelling mistake in Hartley's surname in the welcome, Hartley Hale instead of Hartley Hare.
oh, sorry.
Thank
you. And I think Janine's name is Jess Cotton correctly. Yeah, any other questions? I think we're just noting them, so procedure just noting, so you don't need to confirm. Actions which have all been completed. Does anyone want to discuss any of those in particular? I don't think we need to run through them. And some of the matters come up in comms anyway. Nothing. Chair's report. There is nothing to note under this item. I've sent you or we have collectively sent a letter of ideas about how we're going to progress this year, and hopefully you've all noted it, albeit not your bios, but that's okay. One fail. Staff reports. We're rapidly going through this. Excellent. Induction briefing. Dean. Is Russell coming online for this as well, or just you?
I'll be presenting.
Again, just like to reiterate a note of thanks to Dean and Russell for an excellent induction workshop this morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the purpose of this induction briefing report is to outline the responsibilities and structure of the Otago Southland Regional Transport Committees. So it goes through, lists the committees, lists the legislation, and outlines the responsibilities. So happy to take any questions on this. Thank you.
James?
Gosh, I started something to continue. Not really a question. I just know my name is spelt wrong in the report. Could be correct.
Thank you. Any questions? Oh, it's so we're page 12 of 66. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't realise I did have a question.
Yes, thank you.
It relates to what's in this report versus the actual terms of reference, which I think follow. The numbers are inconsistent for the Otago quorum. This report says 4. The actual terms of reference say 5. I don't care what it is. I just want it to be right.
Thank you. Can we, Dean, do you know which one's correct?
Still be correct in the terms of reference.
Which is 5.
5.
Yeah. It's 5. Thank you. You note that. Any other questions? By the way, if you could leave your mic on it, you won't hear the speaker so well, and it may overload and not work. So did you have any comments, Russell? Your mic is off, so I presume you're ready to talk.
No, not specifically. Thanks, Madam Chair. To some extent, the report really just focuses more on the legal framework, so that you can put that framework in behind the information that you had this morning and the discussions you had this morning. I made a comment in speaking to the Southland Chair earlier today. I don't think in the time that I've been involved with the combined Otago Southland Regional Transport Committee that we've actually had to look to the terms of reference, etc. I think that the two committees have worked really well together as a combined unit and have come to been able to come to consensus decisions. So I guess as long as they are going to be fit for purpose for when you decide that you don't want to agree on something, then I'm pretty happy to see them carried on.
Okay, so yeah, so this is paper 8.1, which is the induction briefing. I think I had to move from the chair that the committee just note the report, because I don't think there's any changes or direction or actions that we need to do for that. Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion or comment? All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. That then leads us up to terms of reference, which is follows induction briefing. And this is the new terms of reference. Do you want to speak to this or?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So this report provides an opportunity for the regional transport committees if they would like to update the terms of reference. So both the terms of reference for the committees and the technical advisory group have been included in this document. We've inserted a new section just in front of the terms of reference, as you can see, so that it clearly outlines that they apply to both committees, and we've also reviewed the terms of reference for any inconsistency issues. Thank you.
So any questions? I have one, and actually two. One is the South Island Regional Land Chairs meeting. It's an informal meeting and does report back to this committee, but it doesn't really have any standing. There is no point really, I don't think it's noted in here, and I don't know that it needs to be, but I'm just checking. I'm saying that more that the purpose of making sure that, and it was covered off in the induction today, that people realise that sitting alongside of this is that the chairs and our deputies all get together regionally in the South Island as well, advocating at a higher level or trying to get a consistency of story, and just making sure that there's some consistency right throughout the South Island and understanding of, you know, the one network is the one network that we all use, and that messaging that we take up should equally be coming up from the floor if you want us to. It's more an opportunity for that people to understand that happens rather than having to be put in the terms of reference. Does that sort of make sense? I don't know that it has to be going there, but and in many ways that would be the advocacy role, would it? I think I'm not sure if the advocacy role is put in there. Yes, true, yeah. Yeah, thank you. The other one is the delivery piece, and we spoke about that a bit this morning, monitoring that we are spending and delivering, but also understanding how our delivery can work more collaboratively with industry. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily have to happen. I'm just wondering, is there a desire for us to consider that as part of our terms of reference or not? Is there any staff advice on that?
Madam Chair, I think that the legislation says that's a role that you have to play, or that you have, whether the terms of reference need to be explicit about that. I'm not sure. I think that it is just simply something that you have got to do. So I think the terms of reference are about the way that you're working together, etc., rather than the specific actions that you need to take.
Okay, very, very happy with that. Just taking notes from this morning. On that, no other questions. On that basis, I'm very happy to move that we just note the report without giving any other direction, because I think, and adopt the terms of reference. So note the report and adopt the terms of reference as attached. Oh, Phil's going to move that. Seconded. Stu? Any discussion? Input? All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Sorry, I'm doing this rather hastily, which isn't fair for the people who may be online. And sorry, I didn't think I welcomed you, Toshi, but NZTA as well. But yeah, if you want to put your hands up rather than turning your mics on, it might be helpful if you wish to vote. Next. Correspondence update. Thank you for the list. Do you want to go through this? How do you want to do this, Dean?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide the committees with an update of copies of correspondence sent to ministers requested at the last Regional Transport Committee's meeting in July. So letters were sent to government ministers regarding Kiwi Rail representation on the committees, policy and funding certainty, and support for passenger investigation in passenger rail. So the letters we sent to Honourable Chris Bishop, Minister of Transport, requesting the appointment of a Kiwi Rail representative on the Otago Southland Regional Transport Committees. Another letter was sent to Right Honourable Winston Peters, requesting support for investigation into the feasibility of passenger rail services. And the final letter was sent to Honourable Chris Bishop, requesting greater policy and funding certainty through the government policy statement on land transport. What we received in summary is Honourable Chris Bishop replied noting support for Kiwi Rail representation, but this was specific to matters being put on the agenda, and it was recommended that Kiwi Rail be contacted to discuss practical arrangements. A letter was also received from Honourable Winston Peters, noting decisions on funding for public transport services require a business case. Kiwi Rail is available to advise on matters, noting limitations in rolling stock, and the committees were encouraged to advise if they are willing to begin a business case process. The final letter received was from Honourable Chris Bishop, noting the GPS 2024 signalled a shift to a 10-year planning horizon, and GPS 2027 is being developed, and it is looking to shift to a longer planning horizon, that 10-year planning horizon. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Murray.
Through Madam Chair, I note that there's no reference to the top priority project or high priority project at the State Highway 1, State Highway 93 intersection of Matara Township, which I thought was the driver of these letters. It's all about passenger trains.
I think there's two issues there. One, there definitely was a motion in the minutes about passenger trains. And that was why that one was that one. The other one has been coming up quite regularly with the NZTA, isn't it?
Matara?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you watch me talk about Kiwi Rail when you get to me.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. Well, so yeah, we'll put that. Yeah. So the passenger train came up from a separate resolution, majority. Yeah.
Thank you.
Our submissions, the regional passenger transport plan. Anyone want to make any other comments? Oh, sorry. Thank you, Matt. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Kate. I just note in the response from Minister Bishop that about the GPS 2027 being developed, and requested NZTA, and his words are, I have requested NZTA provide me a 10-year forecast of land transport expenditure and revenue. Was that part of the recent infrastructure announcement? I noticed, was that last week that Minister Bishop made? Did that include the indicative figures and that from the transport side of things, or is that just other things?
James is going to answer that. His body language is saying no.
Yeah, now I'm verbally saying no. No, it's a good question, Matt. No, it's not. What he's referring to there is, I guess, one way of characterising part of the overall information request that we fill and we continue to fill with from the Ministry of Transport and the Minister to help inform the drafting of GPSs. It's basically a two-way dialogue between ourselves and them. But yeah, part of building that GPS, he needs to understand what our spending profile looks like.
Okay. Thank you for attendance from afar, Matt. I think so the Kiwi Rail could be the other agency that could be round the table if they chose to be. I think what needs to get National Land Transport funding is DOC. Is that correct? I think they're entitled to put bids in whether that, yeah, they're approved organisations. It's just interesting in the context of those that haven't been around the table. before there are substantial roads in dock land that are managed by them. That's why now one office, or one person running the whole of South Island and Christchurch. That I will, from the questions or lack thereof, I'm going to move that the committee note this report in the correspondence to the ministers and that received in response. There is nothing into part two. Seconded, Phil or Steve. Any discussion? All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Moving on to page. Thank you, 42. 8.4, Regional Land Transport Plan 2027 to 2037 development. We've had a good workshop on the basis of how this might work. This is getting to the nuts and bolts. Do you want to start us off, Dean?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide the committees with an update on how the development is progressing. So the development started under the previous Regional Transport Committee. So we presented a draft vision, objectives and policies and to the last committee. Staff were asked to go away and revise these and also revise these based on future engagement. I'll come to that, back to that in a minute. So the current structure for the RLTP is set out in table 1. It was similarly presented at the last RTC meeting, so we've been progressing with this structure, and it's we believe it is a better way to tell the different stories across the regions. So you've got the rural story, the urban story, and the tourism and growth story. Staff have been undertaking early engagement with parties. So these are groups that haven't previously been involved with the Regional Land Transport Plan in terms of engagement. So today we've been in contact with Okaha, Te Aromaoma, the National Public Health Service, Port Otago, Southport, Dunedin Airport, Queenstown Airport, Otago Airport, and Transporting New Zealand, and Elder Stewart. The intention is that this engagement will continue through early 2026. What has resulted from the engagement we've undertaken so far is a revision to the vision, a slight revision to the vision, objectives and policies, which are presented there in table 2. So happy to take any questions.
Questions? I have one on page 51. Port Otago, protecting rail corridors is important, as we all would understand, to maintain potential for future expansion. Proposals that prevent the reinstatement of rail infrastructure could constrain future economic growth. Is this site specific or is that just generally?
They did not go into site specific detail. It was, I believe the comment was more general about rail overall.
Rob?
Cool, thanks, Madam Chair. Just a couple of comments for questions around in part 3 on page 44, where you're mentioning those different the 3 stories of rural, the urban, and the tourism growth. And we touched on earlier the importance of getting those stories right. And I haven't read further than this to see if there's anything encapsulated, but I just thought inside that rural story, encapsulating the GDP contribution of those areas and highlighting that population isn't the only measure, like the size of our network in Southland, and just capturing that part because it forms part of the advocacy that I'm doing as mayor as well. And then also in the tourism part, I see Te Aneo and Milford aren't mentioned in there. That's actually quite a big corridor. And also Stewart Island, I don't know where that fits in those 3 stories, but it's definitely unique with a very expensive roading network. So I think if we're just capturing some of those niches that we have in Southland. And then just in the engagement piece, and we've just heard from the Mosgiel Community Board, I just wonder if that stakeholder list is extensive enough in terms of reaching out to those sorts of avenues, and also the likes of Fonterra and HWR, those big transport companies that are using the roads a lot in there. So yeah, just my 2 cents in there. Thank you.
Dean, do you want to make a comment on that before?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, so we will be reaching out to Fonterra, Silverfern Farms, other industry groups, also HWR, St John's Police, tourism organisations, regional economic development agencies. So yes, it's going to be quite broad.
Am I correct in, I think these ones are ports in their own way as part of the Regional Land Transport Committee or run them, whereas the other ones are other people who use the system more. Is that how you differentiated them, sort of?
How
You've differentiated that list as more the ports.
yes,
Airports
yes, so
or seaports.
airports, ports,
Yeah.
yes, those key infrastructure providers, yes.
Yeah. As opposed to the users, yeah.
Yes.
And just one more if I may, just I did read it somewhere else, but we have an airport in TR now as well, which I think has been missed. So it's not a functioning passenger airport yet, but it does have some activity happening and it's starting to build. So it would pay to keep that in the mix. Again, if we're going to be using this as a storytelling piece and an advocacy place, we need mention of everything. Thank you.
Got Matt, and then I've got Quentin.
Thanks, Kate. I note, I presume this is a question rather than a statement, but I'm not sure what it is actually. In the Dunedin Airport submission, it says visitor transport patterns are not well understood. I presume that's directed at the committee and not understanding the transport, or is that them making a statement that they don't understand it themselves? Just picking up on that, relevant to other airports as well, and Quentin maybe is probably across this as well. I've always struggled to get, in my previous role, I was involved with Destination Queenstown, and getting decent data out of Queenstown Airport in terms of where people were travelling once they landed and who was travelling was difficult. And that sort of points to this conversation around PT in the Queenstown area. So is NZTA privy to any granular detail out of the airports in terms of the usage and where people are coming and going and that sort of carry on, or do we just have to rely on general information that is available in the mainstream?
We'll go to Dean first to answer your first question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So from the airport's perspective, it was about where the travellers are travelling to and where they're coming from. Much like you've indicated in terms of Queenstown, is the data for the airport. Yes.
So they don't understand it, but they're not saying it's necessarily our job, it's a potential project.
Yes.
But they do know their revenue from their car park, I know that. Sorry. James.
Sorry, Matt. No, we don't have a great up-to-date understanding. Later this week, I'm talking to one of our researchers who did a piece of work which is now a few years old on what credit card transactions tell us. You know, and particularly because I think we are a bit blind on tourism movements. If there's anything in there that I think we can pick up at a regional level, I'll make sure I get in touch with Dean or Russell. But I think more broadly, no, we are, I think, a bit blinder than we'd like to be.
Thank you. It's a potential project.
Sorry, if I can just add, I just really hope that through QLDC, Quentin or others, there's so much data those airports know. They know so much about where their people are going, who they are, what they're doing, and there's inadequate sharing of information as far as I'm concerned. And if there's questions about or expectations from the airport operators about improving transport operations, they really need to share this data so we know who and where and what is going on. Because especially this gondola proposal or whatever other PT solutions there may be in Queenstown, there's huge amounts of money involved. And without having clear data, I mean, Air New Zealand knows you down to the eyeball as to where you're going and what you're doing. Rental car companies, airports, that sort of stuff. There's so much more data. I think credit card transactions are the lightest source of information. I really do hope that there's a chance for maybe QLDC to ask those questions and or NZTA, because you've got to get good information.
Thanks, Matt. I think Quentin's representing one shareholder in an airport company, and Steve's sitting around the table with another shareholder of another airport. We could possibly have conversations in a different way. Quentin.
Yeah, thank you. Look, there's a couple of things to just highlight. I mean, firstly, that if we sort of look at the Part 4 stuff, the 6 or 7 years ago, it was really a roading transport plan, and this continuing to refer to it as land transport, and to make sure that we're integrating the different modes, but also the impact of the ports and the airports, which have just been highlighted. I think I'm correct in saying I don't think the current GPS makes much provision for looking at tourism as being a driver of investment. Is that correct, James?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, resilience and urban development and stuff like that certainly are, but and road safety and whatever. But tourism has been highlighted as a key part of that. And look, I'll take that on board, and we can try and get DQ and QAC to sort of come to the party around giving us a bit more information there if there's a gap. But yeah, I mean, I suspect that moving forward we'll have to probably elevate tourism in our submissions to the GPS, for instance, as being as a investment driver. Is that a thumbs up I saw there?
James did.
Because I think that's probably a gap for us, and I mean, I'm just trying to think about in terms of the other discussions that we're obviously involved in, being the regional deal and the and things like that. Is unless we have tourism, unless we have investment, alternative transport options, and innovation, unless we have alternative funding streams really being empowered through the GPS and being empowered through the RLTP, then we're probably not going to be able to lever those other things effectively. So it's probably something we need to look at a bit more closely.
Thank you, Quentin. Any other questions, James? Oh,
Comments on a question, I'll hold it.
would you like to make a comment?
I just wanted to support what Scott said. Dawson's comments.
Thank you. Well, and it's probably going into the detail that is in the next part, but the rural story, my concern there is not, it's we need to highlight the word of isolation for some of those rural communities that aren't from isolation, that don't have those connections, as we've already had highlighted about children and old people in Outram even. Quentin, you've got another question, or is your... Thank you. And only because it keeps on coming up, and I may be wrong to highlight it, that State Highway 1 and the Kiwi Rail interact a lot in Otago and Southland. And is there a place where we should be highlighting those potential, I mean, they are real conflicts in there, because especially if we don't have Kiwi Rail here particularly much, it's it amazes me how often they come up as an issue that we need to get a compromise order. And I don't know, I'm just raising it because it's already been mentioned today about Kiwi Rail. Or is that something that's similar all the way through Canterbury as well, and all the way through Melbourne? So that's not a special topic.
Just because it's not special doesn't mean it's not important. We've had exactly the same conversation at Canterbury RTC last week. I mean, I would simply going back to the previous item, encourage the Secretariat to use the contact that's been given by the Minister to get Kiwi Rail along. I think there's lots to talk about with Kiwi Rail.
Okay, we'll deal with it under that. Okay, at the end meeting. Okay, sorry. How far do you want to speak to any more to this? Lee?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, are there any other questions on the vision? Appreciating that you guys haven't had the input yet, and are you happy to take the sage advice of the previous committee and what they've put in there otherwise? You're happy to note the report and confirm the current approach of the early engagement to reform development of the regional land transport plan, noting those other parties that need to be spoken to as well. Advise any changes are there any other changes that you wish to make? So motion 1 and 2.
Yeah, I was just going to observe, my understanding is that level of engagement represents an investment and engagement that hasn't previously been undertaken.
It's really good.
Yeah, so it's a greater depth of engagement and continuing into the next few months, which I understand is beyond what was undertaken on previous occasions. So that's a really positive thing in my mind.
Thank you. Good comment. Does anyone want to move a motion? And probably James, it'd be just number 1 and 2. Seconded. Thank you, Phil. Any further discussion? All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Good, getting through this nicely. It's all comes from the good prepping. Thank you for the staff. 8.5, page 54, regional road safety update. Dean, this is again got your name to it.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide the committee with an update on the latest annual road safety outcomes. So what this report does is put together charts from Transport Insights to present that data to you. And again, referring back to, as I discussed this morning, there's a lot of data on Transport Insights that is easily accessible to everyone, the public. So really happy to take any questions on this. Thank you.
Could I just ask you to talk us through the graphs to make sure that we're all reading them the same way? And I'm going to suggest starting with ones on page 56 and 57. Is that okay? I just want to make sure that we're all reading them the same way.
Okay, so what you have there is the grey band represents the 25th and 75th percentile for all regions. So how you're tracking in that. So you can see for Otago region, you're tracking quite low down in that, which is it's indicating it's not too bad. And you can see that right along the charts. So the first one is the population-based risk chart. So that's say per 100,000 of population. The second one is the personal risk chart. That's per 100 million VKTs, so vehicle kilometres travelled. And then the last one is the collective risk chart, and that's per 1,000 kilometres of road.
Thank you. And the next one?
Next one. Okay, so that's based on the ONF, so that's showing how the network's broken down into those categories. And so you've got, so the blue is the length of that category, and then that's the fatal and serious injuries on that category, the orange and the orange.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this? It's amazing detail. I mean, it's really good to see that the roads are safer than the national trend. It does mean that we possibly can't put a good case up for argument for investment on safety, but but it looks a relatively good story when you see it like that, or am I misreading that? I mean, any death is a tragedy, and I'm not, it'd be great if it was zero, but.
I think so. If you look down at Southland's charts, you can see that in the beginning they were quite, say in 2021, 2022, it's quite high up there. It's out of that range.
Yes.
And then they drop away. Yes.
So Otago's better results, about Southland's reducing.
By reading that, yes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
We don't have any idea about the number of fatalities, and it's always there's often a suggestion that about tourists. We don't know the fatality numbers for tourists on this, do we?
Madam Chair, could I just make a couple of comments in relation to these graphs, please, and certainly in terms of the Southland ones. There's a couple of outliers there because in about that time we had a couple of multi-fatality crashes, and that's just exactly what will happen when that happens. You know, when you get 3 or 4 fatalities in one crash, it puts you well outside the averages. More particularly, this report is an example of what we are now able to get very easily out of Transport Insights, the REG data process that takes all the data from local authorities and the road controlling authorities, takes the data from the crash analysis system and turns it into useful information without staff at our level having to go and source the data and turn it into graphs. So you haven't had this sort of data put in front of you before. It's only really available on an annual basis because it's compiled at the end of the financial year. There is a possibility that that we could be looking, or that Transport Insights could do a roundup at about the half-year point as well. But I think that it's really good information. It does show you whether there's a disproportionate number of crashes or fatalities on any particular type of road, or the vice versa of that. So yeah, it's different information than you've had before, and I hope that's of some value. And we'll certainly be looking to continue to develop that in conjunction with Transport Insights for the regional sector. And if there's other things that you would like us to report on in the area, then please let us know, and we'll see what we can do.
Thanks, Russell. Are the coloured ones, the orange and the red and the blue, is there any, look, this is relatively short-term data, so you can't take a trend necessarily, but are there disproportionate amount of deaths for some of those types of road length of concern to you?
For me, at this stage, I don't think that I would say I've got sufficient information to be able to make any recommendations there. But I think that it's the sort of information that Hartley and the rating managers would be able to look at and go back and say, well, why are the crashes happening in a particular area, or why are there more of them, etc. And you do have to read them against, go back and have a look into the detail on the VKTs, etc., to see there might be a relatively short length of a particular type of road, but with high numbers of vehicles on it, etc. So there will be other circumstances that need to be looked at. And while I'm speaking, I see in the chat there's a question asked about collecting data on kilometres on different road types. So yes, it is at least the kilometres travelled is actually are loaded into the RAM database for each of the road controlling authorities. So in some cases they may be estimates over a length of road. In other areas there will be potentially more than one traffic count site. So there's a combination of things depending on the vehicles that are using the road, and exactly what the road controlling authorities, the information they need. So it's the best information on vehicle kilometres travelled that we can get hold of. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Mari, you had a comment you wanted to make?
Through Madam Chair. A bit of information that's not included in this information is the causative reason, particularly for fatalities. And we were looking at very low numbers, or relatively low numbers, but we've had several fatalities and very low numbers, once again, where the road conditions play no part in the crash. And I suspect some of the other networks that could well be the case as well. So I do caution looking at this information without knowing that whether the road played any part in the crash.
And something Stuart's been very clear about, having had to attend to many an accident in the past as well. But we may hear that discussion another day. Thank you. Any other questions on that report? Just needing to know that you'd like to.
I only to say, I think what I think is obvious and may even be implicit report. I'd like to see the next time the data's updated.
Yeah.
I think
It's a helpful
regular exposure of this is really useful.
Yeah, and thank you for those that members who have worked on getting that sort of reporting available to the staff who've worked on that. It's great. Thank you. Noting the report, I'll move that. Seconded. James, thank you. Any discussion? All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Page 60, summary of Otago Southland expenditure to December 2025. So earlier in the day, we were talking about monitoring and delivery. This is the report that looks about how we're delivering and whether we're getting done what we plan to do with our plans and then got the government money for. This is the sort of thing that makes governments happy if you deliver well. I think. Yes, we won't use the word shovel ready, will we? Dean, would you like to talk to this report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report summarises expenditure from approved organisations across Otago and Southland. The previous committees had been briefed on the approved programs from each individual organisation. This report takes the information included in the claims out of Transport Insights, Transport Investment Online, and compares expenditure to the end of the year December 2025 against the approved funding for the 25-26 year. Thank you. I think it probably would be appropriate for each asset manager to talk to their.
Great, yeah, and this is a half yearly report, really? Isn't
Yes.
yeah, this is a half yearly report, and I also appreciate that some of the councils have had changes in staff during that period. And I'm sorry, what I meant to do today was to acknowledge at the very start meeting, I'll do it in June, this is actually, sorry, I'll do that later. But when we're talking about telling a story, it is really important that we know what is happening and why. And while this is only half yearly, I do want to make a point that making comments because people do see these reports is really helpful to give clarity as to why things aren't or are happening. Let's start at the start though, and that's the Otago Regional Council. Who would like to speak to this one? You are Dean?
I'll speak to this, Madam Chair. Yes, so just talking to our team, our financial team. So at this midpoint, we believe our program is pretty much on track, and any underspend is, it's just reflecting the timing of activities.
Most of these activities are in the PT.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, public transport. There's only a small amount in there for environmental maintenance, which relates to steads, stockades, or dump sites.
And the total mobility?
I don't have that information. Sorry.
It's a topical one that we may be hearing something about later. I don't know. No. Okay. Any questions of Dean? No. Okay. Central Otago District Council.
Madam Chair, Paul Fleet here. I can comment on our piece of this report. So we're pretty much on track as well too. Even though showing 39% halfway through the year, we've done a pretty big chunk of our resurfacing program in January, and correspondingly our unsealed road renewals as well. But also on top of that, we've got a large bridge deck component renewal that's just started as well too. So we're pretty comfortable. We are managing our budgets monthly, forecasting them monthly, and pretty happy where we're looking like we're going to be sitting at the end of June this year.
Thank you. Any questions of Paul? As chair of the Otago Central Rail Trail Trust, I'd just like to say thank you very much for working with the trust and all the operators to keep the bridge open while you worked on repairs there. That is a really good outcome for and where the tourism stuff. I don't know if anyone else is aware of the Shaky Bridge needing a lot of work done on it, and it would look like it was closed. But really good working with communities there. Great stuff.
I really appreciate that feedback, and I'll pass that on to my team as well too. And we've had other really good bits of feedback about the Bailey Bridge installation as well too. I think we've done the right things to basically keep the economy moving. Particularly that, there's over 10,000 cyclists on that rail trail every year, and they are now catering for less mobile people as well too. So Yeah, no, it's a pretty good outcome, I think.
So, and the reason I raise it is the earlier you get the community on side and understanding when these things are happening, the better the solutions can be that you're looking for when you go out tendering. It was a really good result. Thank you. Clifford District Council. Who's going to speak there?
Should probably be Pierre.
Pierre? Not sure. Pierre, are you there? Thank you. We can't hear you yet, but
Hi.
your mic is off.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I was just listening in. I unfortunately can't comment on that. I would have to relay that to my manager.
You can't comment on that.
No, unfortunately not.
No, that's okay. I look at it, and that's what at the start I totally acknowledge there's been quite a change in staff, so appreciate that. Dunedin City Council. Janine.
Yes, I'll comment on that, Kate. So despite a fairly woeful percentage, we're mindful of the fact that we've come out of a winter season. So generally speaking, in this industry, you get busy from about kind of November through till about May, if you're lucky, maybe north of Dunedin.
Summer hasn't arrived yet.
And summer hasn't arrived yet. So we are very busy across the city, as anyone who's been in Dunedin at the moment, doing resurfacing and my personal favourite, rehabilitation. We have put on hold our urban channel and footpath contract for the year, just due to some contractual difficulties. But given the fact that we've been planning ahead with our asset management and funding at the appropriate spend rate, we can hold that for a year. So that's our renewals. Our renewals are in good shape. At the end of the year, we'll only be behind our total renewals budget by 900,000. Right. So that's up less than 4% of our overall budget. Where we are falling behind is on new capital. And the two main areas on falling behind are the Mosgiel Park and Ride and Albany Street. I'm sure that Albany Street takes no yeah.
We talk about GPS is changing, councils can also change.
So the Mosgiel Park and Ride, we've had a few delays with consents, and that's just and getting some approvals. So that will push over into the new financial year, but we'll get a good proportion of the way there. But equally, we have managed to find two areas of capital savings for the city. So it's not always all bad if you underspend your capital budget. The first one is in the geo bags at St Clair that are holding up particularly well. And we haven't had to put money in to replace them yet. And so far, so good. And the other one is in Mr. Spear's parking management work stream, where he's going to be able to deliver the same functionality for less cost. And I'm assuming maintenance and capital is in here. So from a maintenance perspective, we'll be bang on year end on asset ops and maintenance.
Good news story to be told.
That was probably longer than you wanted, Kate.
No, it's look, it is that story. If we can show, and the work, James isn't here just to talk to us. He takes the good stories back and says that if we're delivering, and that's a good solid operation. So thank you. That's a great report. Queenstown Lakes District Council.
I'm not sure if Alison's still with us. Might have to give us an operational.
Alison put an apology in earlier.
Yeah, sure. No, she had to duck away. Look, I mean, there's probably not much to add there. I know that we're working hard on, delivering the program. We've got a good update on the Wanaka low-cost low-risk projects the other day. So yeah, I've no particular concerns there. But it's always hard to get because of usually there's delays in getting confirmation of funding. The program's a little bit delayed in getting rolled out, but we always try to spend it. So.
Thank you. Waiteki.
So by far our largest project is the replacement of Kakadu Bridge, that is on track for an opening late April. We've also got a number of tenders out at the moment for road rehabilitations. They're a little bit behind where we would have liked to do some additional work around MPVs. Sealing program looks as though it's going to move ahead quite quickly. We'll probably catch up a little bit of ground in that space. And for the most part, our operations and maintenance is extended or on track for full extension.
Thank you, Joshua. Otago State Highways.
I might
Isn't it nice that us members sit around here and don't have to report?
It's lovely. No, look, I've got more details on both Otago Southland in the next item, so.
Okay, moving on then. Thank you. But it is great to see so much work happening. Albeit it makes some of us slow to get to meetings. Southland approved organisations, Environment Southland. Leslie.
Sure, we're on track for our spending. The effluent dump station is a little bit seasonal in its spending, so we're sure to catch up towards the end of the year.
Thank you. Gore. I presume it's reseal, not resale.
Madam Chair, you are correct. Yeah, we're not selling out.
Thanks. Well, I don't know, the Environment Southland District, what do you do?
Yeah, so we're on track. We despite some pretty significant events such as the windstorm that we had in late October. So we're confident that we'll expend our funds by the end of June. Our renewal programs and reseals are making good progress. Much of our budget though is business as usual.
Thank you. Southland District.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So for us, as noted, predominantly behind on our bridge expenditure, but really reasonably confident because we do have all the bridges from year 1 and year 2 already procured, and we'll be making gains on having a late start. As mentioned earlier, or commented about the great weather we had not. There are a few of the programs slightly behind, but still confident that we'll deliver because the contracts that we need to deliver on those are in place.
Thank you. Otago City.
Our resurfacing quite a bit of a slow start. We did have some challenges, but it's ramped up really nicely now, so we're confident of getting through that. Drainage, we've got a large Grey Street project that's in response to tree roots tearing the hell out of everything. So that's been combined again with a new resurfacing project. Very intensive sump replacement as well and renewals for drainage. So whilst the number looks big, we've actually got a plan and we have some confidence there. A couple of big rehabs as well. We did have that delay with some MPVs, but again, confident enough that we're going to get through it okay. But we are handling rather rapidly at the moment.
Thanks, Doug. That takes us to the end of that. That's a great summary, and it's thank you very much. Oh, James, you want to move?
No, I was just going to make a comment, and you'll see some slides at the very end of my presentation. That I think this is really great, but as particularly with, for example, the Otago case, this is single financial year. The slides you'll see from me are full three-year program. And some programs they slide between years, and I just wonder whether a single financial year focus is a little too rigid.
Good point.
Because really, certainly from our point of view, we try to manage it across the full cycle. And you do have a season where it's too wet, and you just move things around, and it might provide a little bit more.
And if you're not doing the planning now for something you've got in year 2 or 3, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen, then we need.
And we start to get really antsy towards as year 3 approach. What are they going to be to carry forwards into the next? So, it just might be a bit of a
very good point, and I'm sure that has been picked up by staff. They've been writing. Excellent. Russell.
Madam Chair, I think that James has got a really good point there, and if you remember back to the end of the last financial year, we did do a report that reported on the first year's expenditure against the NLTP approved program. For this intermediate report, we thought that we would just concentrate on how things were going for this particular year, and we will be opening it back up to the 3-year program for the summary that we give you after the end of June.
Thank you, Russell, for reminding us of that. Could you make sure that someone sends a link round to all of us so that we can have a look at what that used to look like? I mean, what it did look like, because it's actually quite hard to find regional land transport on papers. And it might be useful reading just to get your head around some of this stuff. As I've challenged everyone, we want everyone up and running as quickly as possible to make an impact on this committee. That finishes that, except for we're going to hear more about the state highways in the next report. So I'm going to move that we note this report, seconded by James. Any discussion? All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Oh, sorry. No, that's right. The report we all come to hear about. New Zealand Transport Agency update. James, the holder of money and good ideas.
I'm going to do it from here as opposed to move to the end of the table. I'm going to just share my screen, so bear with while I get to it. It takes a while. Thanks. Yes, got there. Okay. Okay, so look, rapid fire, a bunch of disparate topics all sewn together by the fact that they come from NZTA. So first of all, we've talked about development of the next program. From our point of view, this is what the next year looks like, with the upfront caveat that you heard me give earlier in the workshop. The meaning of the word draft and the meaning of the word final, we're really leaning into this year because everything just needs to, get done as it comes and moves around. August is your key date, for building your draft continuous programs in terms of getting them into TO. That allows us to then assess them against the draft prioritisation method of the draft GPS. And then I made reference, earlier on, December is the key point, and nothing's ever final, even though we say it's final, because you need to submit your final continuous programs, and then we can tell you what we think your draft allocation for your continuous what your draft allocation for your continuous program is. But then we'll look at it again next year, because guess what? The world might shift slightly for us, but that's what 2026 looks like to us today. And I hope it doesn't change too much.
On that slide, can I just get you to please distinguish between what the final continuous program is compared to the draft improvement activities?
Okay, so your continuous programs are for regional councils, that's your PT services, right? Or your maintenance and renewals space for the road controlling authorities. Your improvement activities, that is the improvement work. So that's the significant new build, new capital expenditure activities, and we try to do the continuous programs first, not least of which because makes it easier to do the rest, but you need to know so that you can see budgets. On to Mayor Scott's favourite topic, funding assistance rates. So again, August is the date you want to mark in your calendars. So that's when we're targeting release of the advice on what your funding assistance rate is going to be for the 2730. You'll note actually, sorry, on that we're referring to 2730, even though the Minister in his own letter says all indications look like it might be 2737 by the time we actually get there. We will adjust the period, but our board will look to adopt funding assistance rates for all local authorities by August, so that we can advise you what they are. That doesn't preclude the ongoing request for things to be revisited or recalculated or redone. But again, August is the date you want to note down. There are no special purpose roads. Be very careful in my choice of words here. There are no special purpose roads left in Otago and Southland, although there is an important discussion to pick up with Southland District Council over the Hollyford Road. So even though it's not, I'll include that in there for Southland. We need to pick up a conversation about the funding assistance for those roads. And it also captures those other issues. At this stage, there are no signals. There is no suspicion that we are looking at altering our emergency works funding policy. Just to be really clear about that. But as with all ongoing weather events, it's something that we'll all want to pay attention to, I'm sure. For those who are publicly transport minded, National Ticketing Solution is going really well in Christchurch. It's being progressively rolled out in stages on the Christchurch network. We're aiming to roll out full concessions by mid-year, and I'm loosely using that phrase mid-year. For those who are, that is effectively the contactless payments solution that we're building nationally. Looking forward to it being completely rolled out in Christchurch, and then scheduling with particularly councils like ORC, the regional consortia, when they can slot in around the bigger two rollouts of Greater Wellington and Auckland. It will be really great when it arrives. It is already great in Christchurch, and in this region, and particularly look forward to in Queenstown. Not that it won't be useful in Needham, but the rollout for Queenstown will be really, really important and really helpful for an end to cash payments and cash fares. Of course, you can.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying it's great. What constitutes great? Because I asked that in the context of the B card we have here, which I think is great. So.
Look, maybe it's a bit personal. I am a bus user in Christchurch. The Metro, I can't even remember what it's called. The system that Metro used is well beyond end of life. Now, it hasn't been invested in for well over a decade. They desperately need to move on to a new payments system, and it's enabling that. So that is great. It is a better user experience from that point of view, and also ought to be able to provide the PTAs, because it's the PTAs who own the customer interface, much richer data in terms of understanding customer. So it should lead to a lot of potential improvements.
That's right. It is the data that the back end engine will be able to. Yeah, okay. And I presume that mothers can't have their cards stolen by their children, which is also a helpful thing.
I'm not going to comment on
lady
family
politics the other day.
And then also just I mean, in terms of the national, well, I mean, this has been around forever as far as I'm concerned, but is there an end date for the national, I mean, to cover the country?
End of 27.
Seriously?
Yeah. We should be late 27. Auckland's the biggest. It's also the last. Do I think we'll do it? We're on track at the moment. It's all
Can I just clarify that ORC as a PTA still has to have a conversation about whether or not we take cash under the new system?
Sorry, so you're quite right, Anita.
There's a few
you're quite right.
governance decisions that we'll be making. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Absolutely, because as said, but I'll lean into it. You own the customer interface as a PTA, not us. We're simply the service provider.
Murray is urgent to ask you a question.
James, I noticed in your previous slide, you mentioned about a steering group with sector representatives just guiding this process, the FAR calculations. Is the South who's on that?
Yeah, I feared you'd ask me that, Murray, and I'm sorry, I don't know. I undertook to Canterbury. I'd find out. I will find out for this committee too. Who are the sector representatives on that? Absolutely.
Rob really wants to know.
Yeah, and I'm sure he does. Just to touch on the Community Road Safety Fund, there's not a lot of detail on the slide. A lot of people in this room probably may not even be aware that it exists. We administer this thing called the Community Road Safety Fund. It is a fund effectively built by the profit from personalised plates. So if you purchase a personalised plate in this country, once we take the cost of doing that out of the system, the money pours into this fund, and it effectively funds community groups in the road safety space. There's a link on this, not that you can access it because I'm displaying it, but look it up. For example, Salvation Army receives funding on the West Coast to provide driver licence training. There are all sorts of different road safety groups out there. We paused payments out of the fund last year to effectively reset it, make sure that it had robust systems and processes around it. we're in the process of assessing applications in the first round of funding. As I say, decisions will be out by March, and then a new funding round will begin 1 July. So if you're at all involved in the community road safety space, it's an interesting block, Steve.
Definitely got my interest here. I have a personalised play. Never.
How are they going?
They're terrible. I've never heard of this. So how big is the fund, roughly?
It's I actually I don't want to give you a number because I'd make it up. I'd give you the wrong advice. I can find it. We have reset the terms of funding, so we will now fund in terms of annualised no more than $2 million to any one organisation. But that's the sort of order of funding we're looking at.
And are we getting a copy of these slides?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because yeah,
100%.
You heard this? Yep.
You find something new every day. Moving on to maintenance. So some of you may be aware, some of you may not. We have, in response to the direction given under the government policy statement on land transport, completely reset our maintenance contracts. So that the model that we used, the network outcomes contract model, we used since about 2009, has been replaced with this. We love acronyms in NZTA, with this integrated delivery contracts. We held some contracts ending over so that we could approach this nationally. You can see, if you can read the map on that, who won what where. The short answer is not a lot has changed in this part of the world. So South Roads remains the contractor for Southland, Fort Hogan for Central Otago, Downer has coastal Otago. Big change though elsewhere, for example, in Canterbury. More important than who holds the contract is what is envisaged to take place under the contracts. And we hope we have designed a contracting system that, one, brings more control back into the agency for what work is done where. The old NOC contracts were much more arm's length. Here's the pot of money, manage the highway, you make the decisions. So one, we've brought that in, and we'll bulk up our own expertise on maintenance accordingly. We've brought that back in-house. But also to be aware of sort of the conversation part around lunch, we've structured the IDM contracts so that there are separable portions. We will take separate pieces of work to market for smaller players, and we have an expectation that those bigger contractors will be involving tier 2 and tier 3 contractors to deliver on those contracts at place. So it should provide for a better ecosystem of contracting around the region. If people are interested in how that plays out in the region, I'm sure we can bring something to the committee on that.
John is keen to know.
John.
Hey, James, just a question. Yeah, that looks as if Waitaki goes from Mount Cook right down to Waka. Is that actually is it financially stable? Because you're covering a huge area of ground for one contract from one end to pretty much half the South Island.
Yeah, look, I pass. I'm happy to talk on that map. I'm not even sure that, frankly, that map isn't a bit of a stylized map. But we can show you the maintenance boundaries if you're genuinely interested in where the boundaries lie and why.
I would be very interested because I think there could be a lot more money saved by changing a few lines on that map.
Happy to have that discussion. So come on to our program, which was the subject of the previous item. So look, we are on track to deliver a reasonable program. As Janine said, and plenty of others commented the same, down here the season starts late, goes a little later. We've had a wet start to it, but we're confident that we'll be able to make it. Just want to know, it is always the topic of conversation of how disruptive maintenance renewals are. We are trying to undertake, as you all are, maintenance on a network while people are in their busiest season of relaxing, getting around on holiday, trying to conduct business. It's the height of tourism season for many parts. And here we are rolling out the temporary traffic management and getting in people's way. So look, it's disruptive, we get it. But we're trying to maintain a critical network here, as you all are, and all we can do, as Kate, you said, is be as clear as possible about the work that's required and work with communities to manage the disruption. It's not on the slides here, but if you're not aware, we are now publishing weekly newsletters about upcoming disruptions. and on the network, they are actually really useful and do provide a two-way mechanism for flagging things that we may not have thought of, or upcoming things. We try to work around events and communities where we can. But there is no escaping, though. Sometimes the weather is conspired and other things have conspired that there is literally no getting around the fact that we're just going to have to get in and do the work because we can't wait another season and we're out of options.
The alternative is far worse, and I'm
Usually far worse, yes.
yes, and it seems odd that people are concerned about investment happening.
Speed management, just to pick it up. Those who've been around the committee for a while are used to this topic. Those who are new might not be, unless you've encountered it at your council table. We are still working through the lump of work assigned to us in terms of implementing the new speed rule. It's not very new now, but the speed rule that came with the change in government last time. We're busy delivering BSLs outside schools on the state highway, a few intersection speed zones. Those are the lower speeds triggered by traffic on site roads, and consulting in a few, very few places where communities have requested us to lower the speed, and the rule allows us to do so. And I want to acknowledge that one, the rule does not allow us to do that everywhere where people would like. That doesn't mean that we are blind to that request. It just means we can't progress with it. And two, we are only able to chunk through the work of consulting with communities to lower speed in a measured way. Feel free to check with me if you've got a community that we're not consulting with, just that it's on our radar, but be aware we are only dealing with the first bit. We will continue to work through a work program as we go. There's quite a lot of work required by the speed rule in order to work through how to lower a speed. So it takes quite a lot of work. So this is the work that we're doing at the moment. So we've got 16 state highway schools in Otago at the moment, 15 in Southland. You're not so concerned about West Coast and Canterbury. I don't actually have the communities we're consulting with from memory. There are a couple in Otago and a couple in Southland as well. But I've got a much longer list that you've all helped build with me over previous years.
So that'll come through our staff, like CODC, where the state highway sits a rail trial and people will come via us to you, or don't?
Honestly, you feel free to email me directly. I'm more than happy to take that kind of a submission. I simply pass it on to our speed team, who compile a much more comprehensive list of where we've had requests from. But I think it's always best.
So is that the same
as
it'll be the same for pedestrian crossings on state highways?
Pedestrian crossings on state highways, completely different funding, and not a lot of it at the moment. But by way of request, always feel free to flag them with me. At least I know that they're there.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving on to significant projects, starting with the biggest project in the region in Queenstown. It is a road of regional significance, not national but regional, and that is the intersection of State Highway 66A and the associated work. We're making really good progress there. There is an awful lot of activity there. We are preparing for the most important bit is the April move. So it's the second bullet under intermediate planning. In April, we will be shifting from the current and the old configuration onto a new temporary roundabout, shifting all of the traffic over so that we can open up effectively the other side of the road and work there for probably the most of the remainder of the project, which is about 2 years away from completion. It is so much more than simply upgrading a roundabout to a set of lights, but it is the key to starting the state highway investment work in Queenstown. I would say for Queenton, it can't be the be-all and end-all of the investment that's required in Queenstown. As it says, aiming for functional completion by January 28. Dunedin. We are through the investment casing and funding applications for implementation of the changes to accommodate hospital, because those two hospitals, the inpatients and outpatients building, are entirely bounded by a state highway. Thank you very much to the Dunedin City Council for their helpful support in moving forward there. I know it isn't everything that perhaps the community would like to see along there. It is as far as we can move under current funding and policy constraints, but we hope to have the beginning of that work underway very shortly. I think in particular targeting the mid-block crossings that will be needed as soon as the outpatients building opens. And wanted to flag if they're still, Mosgiel are still here, hiring. Just the Mosgiel optimisation improvements and working with the Dunedin City Council too on their local network, the growth pressures experienced in Mosgiel and the growth that is predicted in Mosgiel acknowledged. Thank you for presenting earlier. We certainly I think we captured everything that you've got on your radar for our work. We need to think about what we can do in the short term as well as prepare, as I'm sure the committee will be interested, the bid for and request for future work into the next cycle. But the growth at Mosgiel is significant. We've completed work on a number of resilience corridors. They're really good work. We're in detailed design and consenting phase for the three that are at the top there. And those will be steps for then applying for implementation funding in the next cycle. But those three corridors are really critical resilience corridors in these regions with quite significant risks to them. I was looking at our resilience BBC, our program business case while I sat here earlier, and they are the very, very high risks network in these regions on the state highway network. But I did want to also mention, because we haven't often talked about it at this committee, the bottom one. The State Highway 1 Katiki Strait, which is just south of Moeraki, that is a significant resilience risk to this region. We've undertaken some rock armouring work there. I frankly love the phrase rock armouring. Conjures all sorts of images, but be aware that is a significant coastal hazard. The state highway is very close to the coast there and at high risk. So we have more rock armouring underway, and I'm sure we will be discussing what is needed there.
The alternative isn't great going over Horse Ridge Road, whatever it's called.
I'm not sure what alternatives might look like at this stage, Kate. At the moment, we need to get on with the rock armouring.
So in a 100-year plan, does everything have to shift, or do you go inland?
I look at Chad sitting there, but I'm not sure we'd want to be drawn on a 100-year plan. But rock armouring will see us through for a while yet.
When we're trying to get business case next period for long-term solution, in the past also some a wall to protect the coastline, but we have options. So it's getting the business case, doing the rock armouring, and doing some long-term planning. There's no predetermined options.
But you'll also appreciate, given the geography, there aren't a lot of easy options.
Oh, that's a question I'm asking. We've got to go not far away from our corner.
Gorge is a beautiful drive. Slow down.
Right, you are going to be faced with sea level rise, and that bank's getting cut away quicker than we think.
That's exactly it.
And I guess going back to the other one about Nevis, if you talk about your regional deals, having that being more secure or being available to be, because it probably where the regional deal picks that up, I guess.
Nevis so that's in the Cromwell to Frank. The Frankton to King.
No, Queenstown.
Cromwell Frankton. Yeah. The risks on the Nevis life are
huge.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the continuity that when we're talking with the regional deals of Council of Queenstown and Central, that is one of the only ways out. So.
Absolutely, and it's also currently the single corridor for critical infrastructure come through.
Yeah, and it's moving around a lot.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yes.
James, can I ask, if you don't mind, you're talking there about rock armouring. Are you literally talking about rock armouring or also alternative armouring? And the reason I ask is that we've got a breakwater there in Oamaru, and we've tried rock armouring and gone away from it now and actually using the tripods, got the name of it, which are far more successful than just dumping rocks there along the beach. Is that something that you might consider?
I'm looking at Chad. I think at the moment the rock armouring that we've done there has actually been really successful. We just haven't done enough of it. It's like a long enough stretch of it. But happy to work with the project manager there to talk about what might be possible.
We've got the mould. We're happy to rent it out.
I've got a question from Matt here. James, does the resilience work include considering capacity volume growth considerations, i.e. more passing lanes and or 2-lane opportunities?
Not in the case of resilience. It's not to say that there aren't those capacity issues, and we are doing other work around the Queenstown network in particular, and that Southern corridor in particular to look at that. But no, this is literally focused on the rockfall and landslip risk on those corridors.
Phil?
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to ask, NZ Rail benefits from your efforts to build resilience here because they're slightly further inland.
You're talking Kataki?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do they recognise and
they don't pay?
No co-investment. Because in terms of their maps of resilience in the South Island, my understanding this was an area of concern for them.
Oh, I'm sure it would be. Yeah.
Okay. And they're very happy for you to take the investment for them.
Just wanted to show some pretty alarming pictures of what can happen there, just to mention the other State Highway 94 to basically between Te Anau and Milford. That is an amazing state highway. It is our highest risk state highway in the country. It is deeply important to us and requires an awful lot of work to keep going. Again, actually, a subject that very happy to bring a specialist presentation to this committee on just what it takes for Downer Alliance to keep that road usable. But we have more work in that corridor.
On-site meeting would be fun, wouldn't it?
Oh, an on-site meeting would be great. Self-untouched.
It's quite similar to that low Holliford Road too, isn't it?
It is. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
But it's not a state highway.
Because we're not currently allowed to.
There's
no freely available alternatives. It might. Moving further into the corridor, noting that we've done significant improvement work and will continue to do reasonable work on the Homer Tunnel. It is a really impressive feat of engineering, but it is a very old tunnel. There is only so much you can do to improve it, and it is in an extremely high risk zone. We're completing. You can see a photo there of the new portal on the Te Anau side. Again, happy to take a visit there, but also a presentation on what it takes to keep that road working.
I think you need some Simpsons artwork on there and to get the tourists paying.
And lastly, because it was mentioned a couple of times, State Highway 193 Matoda intersection. Look, we recognise, I've sat at this committee long enough to recognise the importance of that upgrade. It is really, really important, and we secure the funding to progress it in this round. Right now, we are busy working with KiwiRail to make sure we understand what they need and require and what they can fund, because that is the biggest problem that we face on that. But I want to recognise just how important improving that intersection is, and we remain committed to it as a project, but recognising we're trying desperately to just work out the scope of what is.
So if KiwiRail can't fund it, they hamstring the whole system, right? So isn't that not at a ministerial level where you go, this is of significance to the region, because other than the 3 or 4 you've got, they all are there. It must be a minister must be able to make that decision instead of management of KiwiRail.
I'm not sure the minister can make that decision, but representations to the minister would probably be
yeah, well, the minister must have, please explain. Because clearly the funding that you guys have had has been there for several years or a couple of years, and they haven't even got their ducks in a row at all, correct?
So we continue to talk with KiwiRail about what scope they need.
Do you talk firmly?
As firmly as we can while moving forward with the project. But I mean, the point was about the correspondence with the minister. No, except it wasn't here that was about the different issue. I think there is a live issue about how much attention is paid to that intersection and the necessity to see it upgraded. It remains an extremely high risk place.
So the choice is, if you wish to write another letter, which we can directly on this one, that is absolutely on the cards if anyone wants to move that later today.
At the very least, I would encourage the committee to use the contact that the Minister of Transport, as opposed to the correspondence with the Minister of Rail, the Minister of Transport suggested, and see what discussions we can have directly with you.
Thank you.
Going back to the Homer Tunnel and Milford Road.
Yeah.
Does the tourism infrastructure or the government, because of such significance to tourism in the region, question one, has they got any input rather than just out of a roading budget? Secondly, if you go to Japan to somewhere as significant as Milford Sound, you can only enter in and out on a commercial rather than private transport. Has that ever been explored where it actually would be a user paid model that you go to Tiana and then you only go that last part of
those sorts of things have been explored through things like Milford Opportunities project. They've never been committed to in terms of formal policy positions, and some of them would require change of legislation. It's a state highway. We are not able to restrict movement on it. If the Crown decided, or the Ministry, because they control the policy of what is or isn't a state highway, decided to change that, you might have. So those things are often talked about in terms of how you change engagement with Milford and the risk involved and the funding required.
Because only tourism is the need for Milford in the sense that it's a tourism driver of the state highway.
Oh, it's New Zealand's number one tourism destination.
Yeah.
On probably New Zealand's most challenging state highway. Ocean Beach.
Can I just ask a question on that? Because it was a good segue into my question. Passing lanes on State Highway 94, you would have heard the community push for that. What's the process and where is that sort of sitting at?
So again, we don't have money for it this cycle. We've got them on our list. We'll look to see how we can prioritise them against Crown policy for next time round. But
so it's looking like but to give them an indication of when it might be actually looked at, we're talking 3, 4, 5 years.
I think it would be nice from a regional point of view. I can't make comment on national priority, not least of which because I don't have government policy. But it would be lovely to see if we could make progress on that in the next 3 year funding cycle.
Thank you.
Ocean Beach. So this is the road to Bluff, and as you can see, it's quite exposed to the sea. Probably more than you'd like a state highway to be. So just to note that we are in detailed design. Should be finished detailed design this month. Got our consents in and hope to build that later this year. That effectively is just the raising of the state highway by some metres in order to pull it out of the ocean. In noting not only is it critical for access to the port, but actually there's significant economic development at Ocean Beach. It's quite an important access point in the regional economy. So. And then look, just because it's a different way of looking at similar data. Here is our way, or one of our ways of looking at the tables that came in the previous report. This is the 3 year funding picture, not the single financial year. But here you can see across the Otago councils by activity class, the full extent of the light blue line. That's the total baseline allocation for the NLTP for Otago councils. And then you can see how much has been drawn and what we expect, where we expect you to be at this time of the cycle. I'm not sure it paints you much of a different picture from the tables that came through, but it's just a different way of presenting the data. Happy to work with officers about the ways and what might be useful to the committee. But from my point of view, as I said, the previous report, looking at the full 3 year allocation shows you a bit more of the overs and unders and where you expect to be. And we can drop into particular activity classes if that's useful or particular councils. So there's picking on Dunedin City Council, just needs looking at me. That's Dunedin City Council's spend.
Can we go back to the other one,
sure.
the public transport one, which looks quite high for a 3 year cycle there? I presume, is that total mobility that will have been overspend there to an extent?
Total mobility is our only overspend at this
but will that come under that or not? It's not.
It should do, total mobility comes through us.
Yeah, no, but it would be on that line.
Yeah, it should be, public
Yeah.
transport services,
No, I'm just wondering why it looks so high. I would have thought it was a third over a 3-year cycle, that's all.
No, you should be about.
About halfway.
You should be about halfway.
Oh, sorry.
You should be drawn about halfway, so you're saying
sorry,
you should
wrong
be
year.
slightly under halfway,
Yeah,
and you're just
okay.
slightly under halfway, so
Okay.
you're not
No.
far off, as we sort of discussed in the previous item, it's just showing a different thing.
Sorry.
Through you, Madam Chair, if we're coming into the last year.
Yeah.
Or even nationally, and there's maybe significant underspend in the local road pothole prevention fund. Is there some possibility that potential for the government to lend on the ring fencing of that funding, allow expenditure into local road operations, for instance?
I would doubt it. I'm just cycling through these while I answer. I would doubt it, not least of which because it is a lower order of ask for us to move allocations between councils within an activity class than it is for our board to move money between activity classes, if you see what I'm saying. And in terms of outcomes purchased by the government, if let's just say a region in the North Island substantially was under delivering on pothole prevention, we could lower their allocations and move that money into councils who were already making really good progress on pothole prevention. We'd still get more pothole prevention. It would still be purchasing the outcomes that the Crown was after, as opposed to saying you're moving it between activities. So unlikely. It is more likely to see the what happens and does happen as we get into year 3. Councils get a clearer view of what's possible to progress, less so in the continuous programs, but more in improvements. What's likely to actually happen before the end of the cycle, and we can start getting a bit opportunistic on what might be possible if people are ready to go and they weren't. So we certainly shuffle money around, but not usually between activity classes to that extent. Thanks. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
John's got a question. Friends?
Sorry, for the last slide you had there, James.
Yeah.
Forgive me for being a bit thick, but could you just define really the pothole prevention, the road operations and the improvements, the difference between those categories and where I'm coming from? Is it not better to replace 100 metres of road that's got 100 potholes rather than fix 100 potholes? So, how do you differentiate that so you get funding?
Okay, so those are the 3 local road activity classes set out by the government policy statement. The easiest to understand is local road improvements. That's the bottom one. The least, that's your improvements activity class. That's your new, building new to address new, effectively. Pothole prevention operations are the 2 new activity classes that the minister created out of what used to be the single activity class before. So the minister, Simeon Brown, came in and said, my view is that the transport system hasn't been investing enough in fixing potholes in pavement. So divided the amount of money that was available for those continuous programs into those 2 buckets. The pothole prevention bucket only allowed to be spent on reseals, rehabs, and drainage. Right. So your comment there, fill the potholes, that's effectively reseals, that fixing it. Digging the road out and replacing it, that's your rehabs. And the GPS mandates more, struggling to get to the run rate, but more rehabs and more reseals, but more into fundamentally rehabilitating the road surface. So that's your pothole prevention line. And all the other operational activities, everything from bridge inspections to what other things sit in your operations activity class. I'm looking at the road managers.
Sweeping,
yeah, things like that. That sits in your operations activities, and you can see it's a lot smaller, right? So that was consciously pushed down on. That comes to the question: could we foresee shifting money from one to the other? The answer is no, probably, because the minister very consciously wanted to see investment heading into addressing quality seal.
Thank you.
Does that help?
So I just think it's how you frame what you're actually applying for.
Well, so we work, as you saw right at the beginning of this presentation in terms of dates coming up, we work really closely with your roading teams to build, based off your activity management plans, your 3-year your 3-year program, which will probably boil down to lengths of lane kilometres of reseals and rehabs and what have you.
For some councils that had a significant, they may have had a cycleway walkway project that completely got no door open in the GPS, so they had to pivot quite hard.
Yeah, James, great graphs. I love graphs that are just easily to understand. And not too complicated. Not be me, but this it is. So you're going to share this presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So where I'm going with this is, then can we, for our Waitaki district, you can produce a graph like that?
Absolutely can.
You can figures, because to me, just speaking for myself as a councillor, this is very useful information to say, okay, let's take a snapshot where we are with this, because this goes back towards this morning's discussion about delivery. And to
Absolutely.
actually go back to our staff and officers, say, hey, hang on, guys, I know you're very busy with this and that, but if we don't deliver here, then we got a hot and hell of getting another project off the road. So if we can get this information as councillors, that would be really appreciated and helpful.
So I usually get this updated for me about quarterly, but I'm happy to provide it as I get it.
Thank you. Jane, do you benchmark against other regions beyond the ones you've shown here when you do that?
Oh, yeah, the data I'm drawing on is national. I can just filter it. Absolutely. Yeah.
So how's the team going?
Oh, I haven't looked at that today. I can go away and look at it. But the point is, it's effectively national data. Yeah. Just filter it.
So benchmarking would certainly be possible.
100%.
Yeah.
Rob,
Sorry, Rob.
That's all right. Just further to Mary's good question, and I got quite optimistic when I had a look at the figures here, and I saw there was a $34 million underspend in the state highways. But I think it might have been answered in your statement that you want to do the 3-year model rather than the annual model.
Yeah.
But if there is any left over at the end of it, or close to, if you can predict that there's going to be any left over, is there a chance that, like our council with a $23 million shortfall between what we applied for and what we got, could grab hold of some of that?
That's why constant dialogue with your running team is always very, very useful. And it's not to say that we don't move things between activity classes, because come back to how the GPS operates. The GPS sets maximum and minimum in each of those activity classes. And then our board comes along at the beginning of the cycle and sets an investment target. But that's a target, right? And we have overs and unders and we move things around, And so it's not like we can't move things, and we do, particularly if big projects need the support. I can think of a couple of big walking and cycling projects dragged money into the activity class. So there's always, as we get towards in year 3 and towards the end of year 3, there's always live discussions about how much is needed where and what opportunities arise. So the dialogue between your team in particular and ours is really, really vital to be able to benefit from any opportunities that arise.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Right.
James, it's more of a comment than well, there is a question in there somewhere, and it is about the variable speed test. Which personally I'm not really in favour of. But I don't want to get in too much of a detail, but I do believe that they contribute towards confusion, particularly towards tourists that are using our highways and encountering these things. So if you install these things, but is there a process? I assume there is a process, I suppose. I'm just looking for confirmation that actually then, after they've been installed and it's been proven that they're actually the issues that were at a certain section of highway, or whether there's an incident wasn't caused by speed, but rather than confusion, I assume there is a process in place that will identify that.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that our team of regional safety engineers pay very close attention to the interventions that we take on state highway and what else is needed, and are pretty flexible within the bounds of what the rules allow. And to be honest, that changes and is sometimes quite restrictive. But yeah, I'm confident Roy in particular here pays very close attention to what's working and what's not.
Yeah, just to follow up, I don't want to get into too much detail, but after the meeting and offline, wouldn't mind have a quick chat with you about it.
Any other questions? I have one, and I'm not sure if it's for you, James, or anyone. And there's two parts to this question. It's relating to the RMA reform and how that deals with infrastructure like replacement of bridges, which seems like sometimes the RMA, I think, has got in the way of just a simple fix for some of those things. I may get that wrong. So the question is, I suppose, is the RMA ever an impediment to getting things fixed quickly and easily? And the second part is, if that is the case, is anyone doing any submissions on RMA reform that may facilitate that as an important infrastructure spend?
Do you want me to answer that?
I'll try as a starter, and if you want to do it. Not, I think, in the way that you might mean, and I might be misinterpreting you, but I'm not certain I can think of a particular example where the RMA has explicitly gotten in the way or stopped.
Not stopped, I'm thinking
We'll slow down, but our minister, it would be worth saying that our minister, who's the one responsible for RMA reform, has paid really close attention to and shows quite a lot of interest in where, for want of a better way of putting it, planning rules, whether that's the RMA or the Conservation Act or other particular, has placed a burden on projects. Not to say that he's minded to completely remove those things, but pays close attention to how that is how that is aligning with the need to get in with critical infrastructure. How that's played out in the end factors or what it changed to, I think it's too early to say, but just to note that that is a topic of attention.
Murray?
Yeah, specifically referring to bridges, the current RMA is an impediment. We have been looking at replacing some bridges on very low traffic volume roads with Fords. And there is definitely an RMA impediment to replacing an existing bridge with a Ford, because it's obviously in the channel. But the bridge is a lot more expensive than a Ford is. So that's one specific example of where the RMA is a problem for a more practical and lower cost solution.
Thank you. Any other, Hartley, you haven't got anything wonderful to?
Yeah, Hartley's got.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think the challenge I've experienced, or that we've experienced, I think it's where you replace an existing infrastructure with new infrastructure, such as bridges, but also large diameter culverts. So you're actually upsizing and improving what you have, but yet you have to compare to what's there, but have to go through a rigorous process around consenting aspects. The same with the bridges, multi-span bridges in particular. In our case, not so much the full span, smaller ones, but the largest span or multi-span, when you have, say, 3 or 4 spans and you're going down to 2 spans, so less interference in the waterway, better off, but yet there's seems to be a more stringent process to go through.
And I
That can have impact.
Yeah, it's possibly too late for any submissions, but anyway, I just want to inform it. And the other one is maintenance of bridges, where you do have spans into the river causing catching the wood and stuff, and whether that is a hard thing to clear, because the RMA reform does give an opportunity to make sure we're simplifying some of these things and reducing the costs. And I just would like to be thinking that somewhere in the processes of local government, how we're all shaking our heads and wondering what reform looks like, we're getting some good submissions in the meantime and assistance to the government. Yes, Liz.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention that under the new planning system, there is spatial planning and infrastructure, and these conversations with our communities about the future infrastructure needs for the likes of bridges and roads will be a key part of that process. And So like I said, we've got an opportunity under the new planning system as it comes to bring these conversations to the fore.
And also the new NPS infrastructure is designed exactly for this state. It's an enabling piece of infrastructure. It should make all of this easier and come all the way down to the local level today. Okay, with that, what's spatial planning?
And as you may have noted, but also may have missed, in light of that, RLTPs will now have to have regard to special planning. So it should tie that loop.
Excellent. Thank you. It's been a great conversation. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, we're just noting your report and giving you all the feedback that you could fathom. But do please, it's sometimes we do forget, and our State Highway 87 was blocked for some time for some roading upgrades, and we were driving down it on Saturday, and we all commented how good it was not to have springs coming out under the road, and sometimes we should acknowledge they're doing a great job, and they do cause a nuisance for a while, but it's not necessarily that bad after all. The end result is definitely worth it, and we're grateful.
Excuse me, Kate, can I just add to that? Like, we made that comment coming through the pig route today, that some of the work that's been done in the last 4 or 5 years has been exceptionally good. And I guess going back to the road efficiency group, has that been the case on all roads? Because some of the work now, it seems like we've got to get this right, and they have, or felt like it, especially because we do notice roads a lot when we drive a lot. And I guess that's the one thing, is if we seem to be getting bang for our buck a bit better on the repairs and on drainage especially. But yeah, add to your comments.
Look, it's heartening to hear positive feedback. I flashed up the map from the change in contracts. We haven't changed contractors down here. We have in Canterbury, and it is a frustrating reality of having to front up for me to councils to apologise for work that has to be done and redone again. It's lovely when the contractor does a good job the first time around. Very pleased to be able to keep where we're at here, but no, it isn't always the case, and hasn't always been the case elsewhere.
It's always nice to start off the meeting with bouquets. If anyone else has any, they can feel free to send them on the chains. He'll take them, and so will all of the council staff, happily. Because we forget that they're key parts of keeping the city going and the country going, and it's great. Who would like to move that the committee note the report, and NCTA will take on board all the feedback and provide us with all those updates that they have said that we'll do?
I'll do that.
Thank you, Stuart. Seconder? Thank you, Rod. Any further questions of debate? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. We've now got extraordinary and urgent business, and the extraordinary or urgent, an absolute apology for me, and I wanted to say at the beginning of the meeting, I'd just like to acknowledge the passing of Chris Block, who was Luther rep for quite a long time, staff member, who passed away, I think, since the last meeting. So would like to acknowledge his contribution over quite a number of years. It's sad. Is there any other urgent business? People feeling somewhat overwhelmed by the amount of information they get to. It's great stuff, and I'm just going to reflect that what I said to some people earlier, that the Regional Transport Committee being a way that we could transition whatever the local government reform may look like, whether it be on pest management, on a number of floods and protection works, and a number of other things, seems to me a really good way of thinking about how we may be able to get masters of our own destiny for the next couple of years to a certain extent. I've always enjoyed the way it's worked collaboratively, and I've learned a lot by us all being in the room, dealing with the same issues, but not always the same way. The confirmation of the dates for the next meeting, it seems a difficult one to really plan for, Jane. I think you had 22nd of June.
Yeah, we got those indicative dates up there, but I'll call Russell about those too. Those dates.
So you'll get meeting invites. That's what you're planning, and please reply as quickly as possible and not reload them so that we can get your wonderful input. Is that how it's going to work? You'll be in touch.
Yes, great, as soon as possible.
As soon as possible, but there is some, yeah, the problem at the moment is that other timeframes and dates are coming up. Thank you. There are no other matters. Would you like to do, Phil, would you like to do your Kirapia or the end of?
Give me 1 moment.
I'll give you 1 moment. I didn't pre-warn you for this. The next meeting is likely to be in Southland, I think, which Phil will be chairing, no doubt.
Okay, just bring that up. And so in this instance, going to a different culture for our closing mantra. Going to our Irish brethren, so may the road rise to meet you, may the wind be always at your back, may the sun shine warm upon your face, may the rain fall soft upon your fields, may the hand of a friend always be near, may good luck be with you wherever you go.
And may the road rising up be come with your footing frame.